All righty. There we go. Hi,
And
Mary. Good morning.
so, Mr. Haney, we can just go onto YouTube and look up the ministry
Uh, you know what I need?
and down there.
You have to look at Dr. Bobby Haney. Dr. Bobby Haney is the YouTube page,
Okay.
and it's a little convoluted. I'm sorry, but I had a couple of false starts and had to keep changing the name of the YouTube page. But there's actually two Dr. Bobby Haney's. So I think I deleted one, but I'm not sure. But you'll find it. Use that,
Okay.
look for it, and I'll send you the links again. Let me make me a note. I'll just send the direct links when we're done here or during a break. Yeah, I love YouTube, but it can get a little tricky. And then when you delete a page, you delete all your videos. So I had
Oh,
some videos I didn't want to lose. So I downloaded them back onto my computer, some old videos on them. Anyway, I'm just not tech savvy enough to be sure I did it right. But anyway, I'll send you those links and you can get right to it. So I am recording, Mary, today. We were talking about it, so I went ahead and started. So I wouldn't forget like last week. Right at the end, I said, I forgot to record. So we'll got a couple more minutes till 9.
Hey, Brandy, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm in the hospital, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I'm at.
She had an severe asthma flare up. Been there since Tuesday, she said.
Ooh. And today you're okay? Today you're pretty good?
I'm still having some problems. Still having some problems breathing.
Okay, I'm going to pray for you. I have a slight case of asthma, not hospitalizable, but sometimes it's hard. So I'm sorry. I feel bad.
It's okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, like they had me on like 3 or 4 liters of oxygen earlier, and my oxygen was staying at 100%. Well, they've taken it off to see how I'll do, and I'm between 90 and 92, so it's come way down without actually being on oxygen.
Okay.
So they told me I'll probably at least be here till tomorrow, and if that number doesn't get better, I'll be here longer than that. So, but
okay.
If you stay over 90, they'll tell you you're okay, but 98, 99 is better.
oh yeah.
Well, 100's better.
Well, when they put me on the oxygen, I'm at 100.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had bronchitis one time. In fact, my doctor told me years ago, he said, once you get to age 50, every time you get a cold, you get bronchitis. He said, just count on it. And he says, I start all my patients on whatever, steroid or something, even if they don't have symptoms of it. So if they're over 50, I just put them on it. I told him one time I was sick with a cold or something, and I said it smells like I smell cigarette smoke and nobody's smoking. I look around like, who is smoking? And he said, that's asthma. That's when somebody tells me that, then I just say, you've got asthma. So like I told Brandy, I've 2 times in my life I've used an inhaler. So it's so mild, it's just negligible. But every once in a while I'll go, I smell cigarette smoke and I'm miles from anybody smoking.
Yeah.
It usually is just a few seconds and it goes away and I don't worry about it. But well, we'll see. We'll go ahead and get started. See if any of the other ladies join us. I can't remember who. Candy told me one of the ladies actually moved back to New York, back to her home. So she is. Brandy encouraged her to get on Zoom, but I can't remember who it is. Maybe it was Natalie. Not sure, but that's probably who it was. But maybe we'll see Katie and both Katies and Aaliyah. But let's go ahead and get going. You had some homework last week. I'm not going to go over all of it, but one of the things was to look at your spending plan and make any modifications on that. And as I said several times, that's always a kind of a dynamic worksheet because income changes, expenses change, and some are pretty steady, but you'll always need to be looking to modify that. And I asked you to look at a way or one way at least to live more simply. What can you do to lower your expenses? We talked a bit about the cost of things and how they add up, even little things that you think are just nothing. You look at over a year, 5 years, 20 years, you see it's thousands of dollars that could go somewhere else and help you a little bit financially. And then I asked you to get a annual credit report. So um, why do we need our credit report? What's important about that?
Well, that affects any interest rates or anything like that, or is the ability to obtain any kind of credit or
Right.
That you may need.
And we're gonna talk about getting a loan today in our first session, first part of our work. So yeah, the ability to get a loan in your credit. So you need to see what that report says. Why else do you need that report?
Well, sometimes they get it wrong.
Yeah. You need to look for mistakes. I shared with you last week about I went to buy a car and the salesman called and said, "What's this $50,000 home default?" I'm like, "What?" I hadn't looked at it. I had no idea. So he told me what it was, and it was Robert Haney, but it wasn't this Robert Haney. So we got that fixed and taken off. So a huge mistake, and they were fixing to either deny my credit or deny my loan or charge me a higher interest rate. But just errors. You just need to see about errors. What else? What else does a getting a credit report do? Why do you need good credit even?
Well, getting your credit report, it might go along with what you said, but it could tell you if you have any fraud
Right.
on your name.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I don't know that this thing was fraudulent or just an error, but anyway, you're right, Brandy, you need to know there's something going on. Another thing I didn't say this, I'm very hyper about checking for fraud. And credit card companies are pretty good these days. In fact, sometimes they're a little overzealous. I've had them stop my card when I've been on vacation because suddenly they're getting charges from somewhere out of my realm. And had that with a Discover card one time. I was in Hawaii and I handed it to a vendor one time and he said, "This card's no good." And they had actually called, this is pre-cell phone days. They'd actually called when I got home and left a message on my answering machine saying, "Hey, are you in Hawaii? What's going on here?" So, but credit card companies are pretty good about checking that. But I keep all my receipts every time I use a credit card. When I get my statement, I find the receipt, I staple them on there, the receipts for the month, I make sure. And every once in a while, I'll find a charge that's not mine. And I've found to be lately in the last few years, if you just call and say, "Hey, this isn't me. I didn't do this," they'll take it off right away, and then they investigate it. So that also comes with having good credit, and my credit report is good. They believe me when I call and say I didn't buy this. So my reputation, my credit reputation is good. And so that's another reason you need to know what it is. Is there fraud going on? Are there mistakes, crazy things? This also, your credit can affect your ability to rent an apartment, okay, or get your utilities connected. Okay. So if your credit report has some crazy stuff on it, mistakes or things you need to correct, and sometimes it's just you just need to do better, which is what we're learning to do, then it saves you money, saves you hassle for lots of things. So credit reports are important. You can get your credit score anytime free on there's several apps and websites where you can do that. That didn't used to be the case, but um, and it used to be, by the way, just checking your credit affected your credit score. That's not true anymore either. So we've come a long way on some of these things, but you need to know what your score is and you need to know what your report is. It's two different things. Your score comes from your report, but you can get a free report at least yearly, and you need to do that and keep up with it. Anything you see out of the ordinary, investigate it.
Well, Mr. Haney, can I ask you a question before you move forward?
Sure.
Is it hard to get things removed from your credit report? Because like I've had bankruptcies and, things like that, that should only affect my credit report for 7 years, but they're still showing to be on there. Is it hard to get things removed?
There's not one answer for that, but you need to pursue it. Sometimes, and by that I mean contact the creditor. You need to contact the creditor and you need to document this. So if you email them, save the emails. Okay. If you write them, send it certified mail. Be sure they receive it with a return, certified mail with a return receipt to be sure they receive it. But you need to be interested enough, even just showing that you're working on it matters. Okay. The worst thing you can do is ignore it. Then they assume that you're okay with it. See what I'm saying? So if you're saying, "Hey, this should be off. I want it off. Please. Thank you. Let's get this corrected." So you have to invest a little time into getting that done. Sometimes it's simple. Most companies want you to have good credit because they want to loan you some more money.
Mhm.
okay, and get you back in trouble sometimes. But
Right.
they do want to, typically speaking, they want to help you. All right. And so, but you need to work on it. You need to invest the time to work on it. Just don't ignore it and assume whatever. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on your credit report, credit score? Well, and by the way, we're on page 105, 106 in your participant guide. So let's say, you know, our credit report isn't so good, our credit score is not so good. What can we do? And this Brandy's question leads into this. What can we do to improve our credit, repair our credit? Look on page 106, there's a little list of several things there. I want to go over this with you. And some of this we've already talked about, but let's expound on it a little bit. So you get your credit report, look at it carefully, find any errors made by the credit agency or the creditor. It can be either. It can be, like in my case, just the wrong person. Same name, wrong person. So if you see something on there, you don't know what it is, check it out. Is this my social security number? Is this my credit card? Did I do this? Was I a part of this? If not, then again, Brandy and others, write a letter and start with a phone call is fine, but you really want this documented. Okay. You need something in writing, email, paper, snail mail, whatever, but you want it in writing. So when they drop the ball, when Miss Susie, who answered your call at the company, buries your note and you don't hear from them in 7 to 10 working days, you send it back. You say, hey, I mailed you this the other day. You said you would take care of it. What happened? And again, be polite. You don't want to make enemies. All right. Because Miss Susie can bury your note again if you are mean to her. All right. Be nice. Say, advise me. I will say, I'll use these words a lot of times. Haven't heard a response. Advise me on next steps. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? I was trying to get a home loan one time years ago. I was a rookie at this first house. Went to the bank, filled out the application, and she said, that's it. That's good. You'll hear from us in 2 weeks. Okay, thank you. 2 weeks came and went. I didn't hear anything. Gave them a couple of days, called back. She goes, oh, well, you need to fill out this and this. I said, okay. Didn't know that. Let me do those. Went over there, filled it out. This is back in the days when you did everything on paper and in person. She said, okay, about a week, whatever. Week goes by, nothing happens. Call. Oh, well, I need this form and I need you to send this. And I said, oh, okay. Why don't you send me a list of everything you need from me? Why don't you hand me a list of everything? I will get it. So I had to learn what was going on, which was nothing until I kind of took the bull by the horns nicely, politely, and said, what do I need to do? So the same thing applies here. If you're not getting a response, say, what else do I need to do? Please tell me everything that I need to do to get this straightened out, and I will do it. Okay. So if you find errors, document it. Like I say, contact the creditor, make copies of your credit report, send them to the agency with with mistakes highlighted, show them what you're talking about. Take responsibility for your own past mistakes. Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. When you know better, you do better. Okay. So if it is your fault, take responsibility for it and say, I want to do better. Help me. what can I do to help you help me? Okay. So you contact the creditor, the lender, the collection agency, and negotiate. We mentioned this last week. How can we take care of this? You need to take responsibility. You need to pay your debt. Okay. If you borrowed it, you need to pay it back. If you owe it, you need to pay it. Say, how can I do this? Let's look at my let me look at my spending plan, and let me see where I can come up with some kind of payment to begin making to you. Often they will, almost without fail, they will work with you. They may reduce your interest. They may reduce your penalty, eliminate things that they've charged you for if you offer to help and stick to it. And again, folks, they want your business. They don't want to just throw you away. They want you to come back and do business with them again. They're in business. So if you're willing to work with them, they are typically willing to work with you. Again, the worst thing you can do is just ignore it, just blow it off. Take care of it, get it corrected, get it built up. You've got a new plan for your life here, a new financial plan. You've got a spending plan. You're learning to live simply. You're saving money. Now let's pay off our debts. Let's repair our credit so that we can get in good standing in the financial world and be able to do some things that we need to do. Not everything we want to do, but the things we need to do, right? Wants and needs. Talked about that a few weeks ago. Get it in writing, as I said. Keep your personal information 100% confidential. Never, ever. If you are called by somebody, anybody, I don't care who it is, if they ask you for personal information, bank account numbers, social security numbers, if they called you, refuse. No, I cannot give you that. All right. Lots of fraud, lots of scammers, folks. I can't emphasize this enough. It gets worse and worse every day. Emails, phishing, you've heard of that, phishing. I get them all the time. Hey, looks like Bank of America or, PayPal or somebody. Hey, your account's goofed up. Click here and let's fix it. Okay. Or give us your account number. We'll help you. No reputable company will call you and ask you for personal information. They may call you and say, call our number on your card or on your statement. Call our number, you call us, and let's get this straight. So even a piece of mail you need to check. I go on the website. If I get something that I'm trying to fix, I will go to their website and I will find that number, customer help number. All right. If it matches the sheet, so much the better. But I will call that number and I will say, I have received this mail and this email, and I need to correct this problem. But I've called them and I know who I'm talking to. All right. You see the difference? Everybody understand that? Hi, Katie. I'll check you here today. Okay. 100% confidential. Never share it on the phone unless you completely trust them and you have called them. Lock up or shred your financial statements. If you need them for tax purposes, you need to keep them for 5 years. 5 years. If you itemize deductions on your tax form, things like that, you've got to keep those documents for 5 years. After 5 years, you don't throw them in the trash. No, you shred them. One of the nice things about living in the country, soon after we moved out here, My wife bought me a burn barrel for Father's Day. I love my burn barrel. So all of that stuff goes in our burn barrel and it's burned to ashes. So, but you need to shred it or it's unreadable, unusable. You may think that's overkill, folks, but there's just lots of mean people in the world that can get your information and do all kinds of rough things with it. Okay. If you get a phone call from a creditor that you think you trust, hang up, look up their number and call them back to make sure the call is legitimate. Just like I said, if you get a call and they ask you for personal information, you do not give it. That's the golden rule of credit. Do not give it. You call them back on a legitimate phone number that you trust, and then you can give them those things. Anybody have any other thoughts on repairing your credit, protecting it? Okay. In our last meeting, we discussed God's design for debt in relationships. Remember, he originally set up laws to make sure that credit was used fairly. We talked about that. Remember, every 7 years, you cancel debts, all of them. Wow. Whatever you owed or were owed was just canceled every 7 years. Now, we may not be prepared to do that, although it's probably a good idea still. But we understand from that God understands the relationship between debt and our relationships with each other. It's a big deal. Never put anyone in bondage or break relationships. That was designed to not put anyone in bondage or break relationships. That's because money and debt can be serious issues that affect relationships, especially within our families. You guys, probably all of us, have stories about or know of debts inside of families, loans not paid back, affecting the relationship, trustworthiness, things like that. My mother-in-law loaned my brother-in-law and sister-in-law some money one time and never got it back. And then when I asked her to borrow some money when we were newlyweds, she was very hesitant about it. And I don't blame her because she had gotten burned and it always affected that relationship. Even though they loved each other, it was always there. It was kind of a burr in the saddle, you know? Same thing with friends. Got a call yesterday from a friend who had been asked to loan some money to another friend. And he said, "What do you think I should do?" And I said, "I think you shouldn't." But he says, "I think I am." And I said, "Well, then understand that this can be a problem." He goes, "Well, I'm just going to assume I'm not going to get paid back." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. But it's still going to be in your relationship forever. It's still going to be there. Even though he said he'd pay it back and you said, oh, don't worry about it. It's still there. It's still a part of the relationship." Okay. So understand that. Be very careful of that. Anybody have a story they want to share about a debt within the family, a loan within the family? You don't have to share it, I know, but we probably at least heard of how that can happen. Unfortunately, it's too common. But be honorable, friends. If you need to borrow money and you borrow it, pay it back. And if it takes you longer than you think, pay it back. All right. That's just fair. All right. We live in a culture that glorifies materialism. instant gratification. We think, and we've already talked about this, we think we need everything that's advertised. Oh my goodness, how am I going to live without this new thing, this game, this, how can I not go to this restaurant? How can I not drive this car? On and on and on. Even if we have a perfectly good car, we think we've got to have a new one. We've got to have bigger, better. All right, that's drilled into us, and it'll make you chase your tail, as my dad used to say. Anybody have a dog that chases their tail? Ours is finally growing out of it, but Katie says too. Uh, but doesn't get you anywhere, does it? You never catch it, and even when you do, you're like, "What have I got?" So don't get in that cycle and live in that. Be careful of that. You ought to get people in your household involved in this discussion too. How could you do that? Brainstorm that just a minute. How are you gonna get your family involved?
Well, it's not a rule, but it's an agreement between my husband and I that before we spend a certain amount of money, we talk to the other person. So we already know ahead of time that we can go to CVS and spend 20, 30 bucks and not ever talk about it because that's like stuff you need. But if we're going to buy a piece of equipment or a vehicle or something expensive, we don't do it to surprise each other. We do it together.
Right. So you've got some boundaries that you've agreed on
Ahead of time.
Yeah. You had a powwow and said, this is how we're going to do this. So facilitate something like that in your family. Look, and even with your kids, folks, this is husband and wife for sure, but it can be parents and kids too. Kids will go, you guys that have kids, you go in the store and you go down the cereal aisle. What happens on the cereal aisle?
I want.
Every box goes in the cart.
And why is that? Because they market, people that are very smart market all that colorful stuff that kids see, and it's sweet, it tastes good, and you get to the checkout aisle and there's all the candy. What happens?
More.
Okay, you know what's going on here. So rather than have a screaming match in the grocery store, why don't you sit down with your kids and say, look, we've got to do this money-wise, financially. Here's our spending plan. They might understand it, show it to them. We're gonna stick to this thing. And that's gonna mean all of us are gonna have to save some money. Remember, Eve and Isaac brought their son, Michael, into the conversation. Hey, Michael, we need your help. We need your participation. Even little ones, folks, this is everybody. They need to hear from your mouth. This is what we're trying to do. So when we get to the cereal aisle or the candy aisle, or when we go in the 7-Eleven or the Quick Stop or whatever, no.
Down the toy aisle.
The answer is no right now. It's already no. Don't ask. Let's don't argue. Let's don't have a fight. We will occasionally get, and maybe set a time, once a week you get candy or something like that, but make some boundaries or rules that this is what we're going to do. And when they forget and say, oh, mama, then you can say, remember our rule? Okay. You had candy the other day. It'll be next time before you can have some again. Okay. You agree?
I actually do that with my kids every time I'm at the store. I'm just like, all right, what's the rule? Don't ask for nothing. If you don't ask for nothing, maybe we'll have enough to get y'all something special.
There you go.
Or, I get them their favorite lunch meat or something, or I let them pick out the lunch meat or something.
Yeah.
So
teach them how to save. Do you want the new toy? You know, you
Yeah.
said you wanted this toy or game or whatever, then we've got to save by eating less candy or whatever, you know, but we're
Yeah,
saving
my
money.
kids have gotten to the point where they understand, like, okay, I said, well, if we buy the toy, that's a little bit less money towards us saving to get a house. Like, oh, I'd rather have a house. So they're
Right.
like, okay, fine.
So get them
They're
in
all
on the,
adamant to have a house.
get them in on it. Yeah. Make them a part of it. Great. Very good, Katie. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? How you gonna get this in your family? Those are good ideas. But it's the point is everybody is a part of this. Your money affects relationships. Your finances affect relationships with family, friends, and beyond. Okay, with the world, your credit, your credit score, your credit report. All right, it matters. Okay, it can be difficult. Relationships and money can be difficult, especially among family. But remember, when you're faced with these challenges, uh, Jesus is here. Jesus came to repair all of this. He's making all things new. Let's be a part of that with him. He's called us to do that. So let's be a part of making all things new. It can feel overwhelming at times, be overwhelming, but stick with it. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, on page 106, let's do this right quick. I want you to take about 3 minutes, write down at least 2, maybe 3, maybe more things that you can do to help repair your credit. What are you going to do? Make this as a commitment. I'm going to do this. I need to. Brandy said she's got a bankruptcy that's needs to come off her credit score. Okay, what are you going to do, Brandy? You know, and I don't mean to answer me, but make a plan. Write it down right now. Welcome, Aaliyah. We're on page 106. We've been talking about our credit and how can we repair our credit. And we're writing down 2, 3, 4 things on page 106 that we can do, making a list of things we can do to help repair our credit. A couple more minutes.
Mr. Haney, I'm leaving my microphone muted because they're in and out of my room so
Sure.
much. Okay.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lee, I answered your chat, but yes, page 106, I am recording today. And I'll send you the links to all those. I did not record last week. I'm sorry, I forgot, but I'll send you the links to the other sessions in this one once I get it posted. Okay, thank you, folks. Now you've made a commitment. You've written down those things. Make some time. Take the time to do what you need to do to help your credit, build it, repair it, fix things that are mistakes or that you need to take responsibility for and take care of. All right, let's consider things that are often purchased with credit and decide which are wise uses of credit. You may have these drawings. I actually can't remember. Hang on just a minute. So I'm going to show you some pictures and you decide. They may be in your book. I didn't write down if they're there, but you'll be able to, I'll show them to you. Maybe you'll see them. Let's decide if it's wise to borrow money to spend on these things, and we'll talk about that. Here's the first one. Vacation at the beach. Let's say it's Hawaii and it's $10,000 for a week. That's probably too cheap, but wise or unwise? What do you think?
It could go either or.
Think so?
Yeah. Because, I mean, a vacation could be beneficial. It could help the family be together, relaxing, a little, a lot less stressed. When you come back, you're a little renewed. But then again, it's trying to pay back the money and not necessarily being able to keep up with the payments. Interest is ridiculous most of the time.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, what you say is right, Katie. Vacations are good. We need breaks. It's called Sabbath. We need to rest. God instituted that. But if you need to borrow money to take a extravagant vacation, maybe you can come up with something a little less extravagant, a little less expensive, a little more affordable, and get the same effect, right?
Yeah.
So you think about, all right, yeah, Hawaii's nice, or the Caribbean or Caribbean, whatever you prefer. Same place. But,
right.
Maybe Galveston would cost you a tenth of that, or something that maybe you could even afford to pay out of pocket, wouldn't have to borrow money. Still get the beach. Not quite as exotic, maybe. Okay. But you see what I'm saying. Consider alternatives. Okay. Very good. Let's look at, remember we're saying, is this, would it be wise to borrow money to buy a lawnmower?
Yeah, I mean, you need to maintain your house, your land.
Okay.
And that would be a lot easier to pay off too.
Yeah.
You could go for a decent, cheap lawnmower.
Yeah. If you need to mow, you need a lawnmower, right? If you got a yard, you need a lawnmower. As far as I know, if you live in the city limits and you don't mow your yard, you're going to get a ticket. That's still true? I don't live in the city anymore.
I don't have a yard.
And I still mow all the time. I've got a 25-acre yard. I mow constantly.
My dad has a 10-acre yard and it's flooding a lot lately, so he
I,
don't even do that.
uh, hey, iPhone, is this who is this?
It's Marie. Sorry, I'm driving back from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Time
All
zones
right.
are off.
I'm glad you're with us, Marie. I thought that's who it was. Didn't want to assume that. Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Never been there. I keep saying I'm going to go to the Smoky Mountains, but
You have got to go. It's expensive because the taxes are so different,
really,
but it was a much needed vacation. Like my kids absolutely loved it.
we're just talking about vacation, and would it be wise to borrow money to take a vacation? So very appropriate that you
No.
jump in.
No, do not borrow. How we do it, we actually have envelopes. Once we decide we want to go on a vacation, which usually is like, we know the same time every year, which is this time. We have envelopes. We prepay for our hotels. If we don't, we put the money in an envelope. If we do any amusement parks, goes in an envelope. The only thing we do not set out, we just start saving for in a bulk, is stuff if we want to buy it, dinners, because we do not cook at all on vacation. That is my
Yeah.
break.
Right.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Good advice. Save for your vacation. Yeah. My wife and I are, in fact, we've already booked a trip to Disney World in Orlando for 1st of December. And we've saved the money. We were going to go last year. Unfortunately, there was a huge event that affected that, so we put it off. You guys might remember a pandemic, something about that. So anyway, we put it off a year. We're going to go this year, and but we've saved the money. We're ready to go. I mentioned to you last week that I use credit cards and pay them off every month. One of those cards we use is a Southwest Airlines miles card. So our flight was essentially free because we used points. Now they do charge a airport fee, $25, I think, for the whole 2 round trips, 2 people round trip. But we've budgeted that. We've saved the money for that. Okay, so the other thing about a lawnmower is this can be a money maker. All right, remember, Michael can use a lawnmower to mow lawns. This was my first job. I pushed a lawnmower and a gas can and a broom all over Kingdom Come in Oak Cliff, Texas, to earn money when I was 14, 15, 16 years old. So that might be a wise thing, that you need to borrow money if you need to borrow it. I bought my first mower. My dad loaned me $70 to buy a mower at White's Auto. Anybody remember White's Auto? It's kind of like Western Auto, but it was just a hardware kind of, anyway. He paid for it. I paid him back. It's the first thing I did. Every time I'd make $5 mowing a lawn, it went to him until that $70 was paid off, except to buy gas for my gas can. And then after that, all profit, baby. Okay. Next picture. Those are textbooks. Represents education. All right. Wise to borrow money for an education, or what do you think?
I would suggest for someone that's going through it now, not to, because right now, as soon as I get done with school, because because I'm going after my PhD, I will roughly have $500 a month in student loans to pay. And that's the minimum.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, you're right, Marie. Once upon a time, I would have told you absolutely borrow money, get a degree for post-secondary education, okay, for college and beyond. Nowadays, you need to look closely at that because it is very expensive in a lot of cases to get a post-high school degree. And it may be, and it just depends on your situation, but you need to look at, uh, will there be value with me having a degree? And frankly, folks, trades are, trade school would be much less expensive and quicker. And I have a friend younger guy, probably 10 years ago, was a great student. He could have gone to college. He was prepared to go to college, but he saw that welders were making $70 an hour, welders. And he went to tech school, learned how to weld, and went to work for a company in Alvarado, starting at $56 an hour. He's making $100 an hour now. All right. He was in trade school 10 months. All right. Now, he also loves to do that, which is very critical here. All right. He loves working with his hands. He loves doing that kind of stuff. But he decided not college. He was going to do this. And he didn't pick because of the money, although it influenced him. But college wasn't for him. And even though typically a generation ago, there was a lot of pressure to do that, I don't think so much anymore. And part of the reason is, just like Marie said, the debt is incredible. I know that for my degree, to get a postgraduate professional degree now would cost me, I would have to borrow probably $500,000. So when I got out of school, I would be in debt for $500,000. And it can be more than that. If you go to a specialty, you can double that pretty quick. Now, certainly your income may justify that. If you're a professional lawyer, doctor, physician, dentist, something like that. But that's a lot of debt to pay back. And you better be sure you love doing what you do because that's a lot. So you got to look closely at that. Typically, it's a good idea to have all the education you can get, but that's transitioning these days. So be very careful about that. Good discussion. Thank you, Marie.
One
Anybody-
thing,
You know, Doc,
Go ahead, Marie. Go ahead. Mary, we'll get you in a second.
one thing I have noticed as a heads up, there's a lot of companies that one question you should ask in the hiring process is, do you have tuition reimbursement?
There you go.
My current employer doesn't, but they do up to anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a semester, as long as you keep your grade point average at a
Yeah.
certain, I think it's a 2.8 or a 2.4. It's just got to be that passing grade.
Yeah.
But a lot of them will give it. That's what they base what they give you on is your grade. But that's one thing I do ask now in my process. Do you have tuition reimbursement?
Yep. Scholarship, tuition reimbursement, you bet. I know several companies do that. Chick-fil-A does that.
I think HEB does it too.
HEB, I figured they did. Yeah. So, if you have plans to do that and they will, some of them will pay into a fund to help you get started. And there's all kinds of variations of that. So absolutely check on that.
and that was the same thing I was going to share a little story
Right.
about. When I went to college, I worked and I borrowed some money, like under $10,000. And this guy I went to school with quit his job and borrowed $100,000.
Mhm.
And I asked him, what's your plan here? And he goes, I'm going to get a job with the county and they pay off your student loan. And I thought, oh, okay. Well, by the time we graduated, the county wasn't hiring. And
Yep.
he had the grades and everything, but they didn't have a job. They had a freeze or something going on. And so now he's looking at, he's got to pay back this huge debt. And then the freeze went off and he got the job and they paid it off. But I don't know that that's like really a lock. Like, even if you're getting reimbursed at work and then you lose your job, I mean, yeah, I still think you need to, it's important to weigh out what's the worst thing that can happen and how do I handle that?
Right.
But still get the education. You know, I bought used books. I worked, I didn't have a tutor. I did like some free stuff, and, you know, he had a tutor and brand new books and didn't work and studied more. And it was two different ways to do it. But it was kind of scary there for him at the end.
Mm-hmm. In that situation, you assume the worst. And let's say, yeah, I'm counting on this. I don't have it in hand, but I'm counting on this. But what if it doesn't happen? Just like you said, Mary, if it doesn't happen, then what's plan B? What am I going to do? If in Marie's case, or yeah, Marie says they're paying as you go, that's different. We had a couple of guys in my dental school class who promised the military, Navy, in fact, that they would serve X amount of years in the Navy, and then the Navy paid for their schooling. One of these guys spent 20 years in the Navy. He loved it. I think he owed him 2 years, 3 years, something. And he ended up spending 20 years in the Navy. But there are lots of variations of that. But obviously, you're going to want to be in the military. You're going to want to be okay with that. I would not be. I never took orders well at all. But so be careful. It's not just like we're seeing here. None of this is necessarily cut and dried. Okay. There's a maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. Lots of ways of looking at it. So another situation, refrigerator. All right. Is this worth going into debt for?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would assume so, being that it,
You need a
takes care of your-
refrigerator.
yeah.
Everybody needs a refrigerator, right? So assuming you don't have one, or your refrigerator is not working and it can't be repaired, which could be alternatives. Do you need a brand new one or maybe a used one? Okay.
This one's fine.
Maybe
Work.
at Souls Harbor, they've got a nice one there, or if I'm just picking, thrift store. It's hard as heck to get stuff repaired anymore. We've been dealing with that with a stove top over here, and finding somebody to do it and getting it done. It's almost worth just buying a new one after all the problems it's
Hassle.
been. But yeah, we have that option. We can afford that without borrowing the money. But we're talking about borrowing here in this case. So yeah. So if you don't have an alternative, you need a refrigerator, especially if you have kids. Well, anybody does, for crying out loud. Okay. So good ideas, folks. Good thinking here. Let's look at, and here's Katie's favorite. Katie's been talking about this the whole time. New house. Okay. Certainly this is not a requirement necessarily, but maybe not as necessary as we think it is. But this is typically a house is a wise investment, not only for a place to live, but in many cases it will appreciate in value. Not always, but real estate market is like any market. It has its ups and downs, but this is typically a good investment worth borrowing money for. Gives you a place to live. You're taking on some responsibility here. Utilities are all yours, insurance, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. But there is quite a good value to having a house that's yours, that you live in. So there you go. Good ideas again, folks. So let's finish with this one. Flat screen TV.
No.
New flat screen. Borrow money for that. Probably, yeah, most of us would
I
say
think that would depend on who you're asking
we,
on that
we
question. I
yeah,
think a man that's into sports, okay, my husband would go into debt for a flat screen TV.
See,
Yeah.
and my boyfriend wanted. He uses this small old flat screen TV that he got from a friend of his a few years ago, and he's just like, it works. I can see. I can turn it up and down.
yeah.
I'm good as
Yeah.
long as I have something I can
And
watch on.
this is our needs and wants thing again, folks. We're, we get a lot of advertising, marketing pressure about the bigger TV, the brighter TV, the better sound system, et cetera, smart TV. And, but, TV's TV, and be wise when you're tempted to, especially if you're going to have to borrow money to buy a new TV. All right. Great discussion, friends. Let's take a 3-minute break here. 3 minutes, and we'll jump right back in. Okay, folks. I'm gonna show you some slides here. We're gonna talk about predatory lending, predatory loans. And going to show you these pictures. Let me get it set up here. All right. What we're going to do is, as I go through these, I want you to notice how what they say that make borrowing look so nice. What do you see here in this loan?
No credit checks.
Yay. No paper hassles, nothing to fax. Once upon a time, we faxed everything. Fast, it says. Get up to $1,500 fast. About here. I know they're not real clear.
Online approval, bad
Yep.
credit accepted, low fees, available in an hour.
1 hour. $1,500 in an hour. Okay. Finance your dream. Finance your dream. Now we're seeing the words, but what else do we see here? How about this smiling lady, beautiful
Yeah.
lady, holding up all this cash? Woo, that looks good. I want
Right.
to smile like that and hold my money up like that. Okay. All right. Look at this family here. Oh, everything's so wonderful. They're on the beach somewhere.
Vacation.
Their dreams are coming true. Okay. Online approval. Get it fast, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So again, here's this beautiful family. Ooh, they've got this official seal on here. Wow. Whatever this is. All right. Some United States Commission or something. Okay. Doesn't even mean anything, but it looks like, oh, this is the real deal. It's legitimate. Okay. And there's Montel. Montel, man, he wants us all to be rich. Okay. Is he still on TV doing these ads? I don't watch enough
No,
TV to know anymore, but if
I don't
you're,
think so.
you guys probably all remember Montel telling us, this is the way to do it, folks. Just put your zip code in and you're on your way. All right. So they make it look easy, right? If we're not careful, we can become slaves to these lenders. Remember our Proverbs verse from a couple of weeks ago about the borrower is a slave to the lender. Okay, it's like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
There probably is.
Yep. And it's just like a drug deal. The first one's on the house. All right. If they can get you in the door, that you'll be back for more. I'm a poet and don't know it. How about that? All right. So high interest credit cards or predatory loans are common to many of our communities. We talked about this a couple of last session or sometime about you can go to an affluent neighborhood and you won't see any quick cash businesses. They're all in lower income neighborhoods. They know where to be. They know who they appeal to. And I won't tell you all of what I know about these predatory lending companies, but they're just very underhanded, friends. And if you've had experience with them, they all have smiling faces, but uh, you can really get in trouble quickly with that. So I don't think I need to preach on that anymore. So let's look at Eva talking with her friend Terrence on page 107. This is a dialogue. I'll read it to you. Eva says to Terrence, "This is a great DVD player, neighbor. Wow, where'd you get it?" Terrence says, "Down at the Rent and Go, Eve. They gave me low monthly payments along with $50 cash." Eva says, "Tara, I hate to break it to you, but they're predators." You guys know what a predator is?
They prey on seeing who needs something, and they'll do what they can to
Yeah.
keep you coming back and get as much money from you.
Predators kill other animals and eat them.
Mhm.
That's what a predator is. Part of my responsibility on my property, because we have a wildlife exemption, is I do what's called predator control. Did you know skunks are predators? They are. So I get to shoot the skunks to keep them under control. But they kill other animals. Okay. I hate to break it to you, Tara, but they're predators. You're going to pay for that thing 4 times before it's over. Terrence says, "Oh, they ain't seen a predator till they met me. They think they'll pull one over on me, but I got insurance." Eva says, "What do you mean?" Terrence says, "I'll pay my friend Al to break in and steal the thing. The insurance will replace it and he'll get it back to me in a few weeks when the dust settles. You should get Isaac to do the same thing with that computer you got Michael." Eva, "Man, free computer. We really can't afford that thing anyway." "But what if we get busted, Terrence, "Come on now. They ain't going to find out. Besides, you know they're duping us. They need a taste of their own medicine." Any similar practices occur in our community, you think?
Probably all the time.
Yeah. What should Eva do with this advice?
Ignore it.
Yeah. Not a good plan, friends. Not a good plan. Not only is it illegal and dangerous, it's just flat wrong to entertain that, or to certainly to carry it out.
But he's
Predators.
still paying 4 times.
I'm sorry, Mary. Go ahead.
Okay, so the insurance gives him the replacement value. He's still paying the 4 times interest. I mean, it doesn't even it out even. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really a bad idea, but it doesn't even give him what he doesn't get it for free because he's paying 4 times the value, and the insurance company's not going to give him 4 times the value because of the interest. So he's still not getting, he's not getting the equal.
Right. Right.
Crime doesn't pay.
Very convoluted, and yeah. And besides everything else, it's illegal. It's wrong. Right? It's morally wrong, ethically wrong. Even if you think you can get away with it and save yourself some money, it's just dishonest, and you're going to pay for that. They may not catch you and put you in jail, but you're gonna pay for it in your conscience, in your reputation, your integrity. I mean, what do you think about this guy, Terrence? You want this guy to be your buddy?
You.
Okay. So, do you want to be that kind of person? Do you want people to, really? So a child knows better than that, but sadly, money drives us to do desperate things. Predators will always. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
God's not going to bless that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting away. Are you getting away with that?
Yeah. It's all your life you're carrying that on your conscience, and you may say, well, I'll, forget it. But it's kind of like the loaning money in your family and not getting it back. You can forgive them, but you don't forget. It's always there. It's something you got to deal with. So, uh, excuse me, same thought here. Predators will always try to take advantage of us. In the world's economy, money is power. And when gaining it becomes top priority, lenders will lie or take advantage of others to get it. By using their services, we keep them in business, and they continue to take advantage of our community. And just like these predatory lenders, we also are affected by the fall. If we borrow and do not pay back or lack integrity in our financial dealings, we've talked about this morning already, we fail then to play our role in God's plan to fix all things, to make things new. At the root of this problem, all of our hearts and minds must be transformed by Jesus. In his economy of abundance, we have all we need. We don't have to cheat our way to the top because we trust him to provide all things. His design for us is not that we conform to the pattern of society, but that our minds are changed and renewed. Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. Great scripture. I encourage you to read it, memorize it. Don't be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Folks, as you hang out with Jesus, when you get up in the morning and say, I'm going to hang out with Jesus today, and I mean that quite literally, you may not see him in the flesh, but kind of pretend like he's there. Anybody ever have an imaginary friend when they were a kid? Okay. Even though he's real, you don't see him. But if you just, I'll tell you what I do a lot of times when I'm driving in my truck, say I'm going to town, running errands or whatever, I will pretend that Jesus is sitting in the seat by me, and I'll talk to him like he's sitting there. Now, it may sound crazy, and people that drive by and see me talking to nobody, they think I'm crazy, but I don't care. But I'm in his presence. I think like he's there. I act like he's there. So I hang out with him. And by doing that, he changes me. Just hanging out with him, he changes me. He changes the way I react to people in traffic who drive like idiots and cut in front of me. He changes the way I react. He does. If Jesus is there, maybe I won't say the words I wanted to say. Now, I might sometimes anyway, not perfect, but it makes me think about it. And that's just for example. So same thing with money. If Jesus is with me, and he is, then I need to consider that when I'm making financial decisions too. And as I become more like him, as my mind is transformed, I think more like him. So I act more like him and react more like him. It works. What are some ways we can resist, challenge, or overcome dishonest lending or borrowing practices in our communities? An obvious one is just don't use them. Don't use them. And look, y'all, I get that, if you're desperate for $100 and it you got to get your car fixed. I know that it's a challenge to resist the easy get that $100 in an hour solution. Okay. But you need to stop and consider what it's going to cost you and what it's going to cost your neighbors as you support this kind of business. And is there any alternative to doing that? If your car's not running, can you get a ride from somebody? Can you borrow a car until you can save that $100? Is there anything else you can do? It may take more effort, but like I say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't.
You know, like recently, you know, I've been part-time at HEB for almost 2 years. Last few weeks, I've been putting in a lot of time to where I'm getting overtime every week now. And my boss is retiring. Well, she's trying to make sure that before her last day, they put me on full time so I can get my benefits and stuff. And I had to
There
work
you go.
butt up to get that. And I had been asking for a year to be put full time.
Great. We'll pray that it works out for you and pray the best for that. Good, Katie. I was there picking up an order yesterday and saw was parked in front of the deli sign, the advertising the deli, and I thought about you. You might have been in there. I don't know. I told my wife, I said, one of the girls in our faith and finances class works in the deli. That sandwich looked good too. Made me hungry.
The HEB in Waxahachie.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I was there
It was like-
until
oh, it was-
33.
It wasn't my wife. It was my daughter. We actually went to the chiropractor. We were there about 11-ish or so, 10:30, 11.
So I was there. I was
All right.
putting out pieces
Well, I was
stuff,
right
so-
outside. I was right outside the back wall there. All right. Let's move on now. Page 108. Let's talk about Eve and Isaac taking a loan here. Page 108. I'll read it. You follow along. Now that Isaac has a regular income and Eva's mother helps with homework, Eva feels hopeful and confident. The couple has included Isaac's income in their spending plan, and they continue to track all their cash flows. I hope you're doing the same. Remember, you keep tracking. This should be a forever thing for that matter. Track your income and expenses. I've been asking you to do it every day. You've been doing it every day. You can probably not have to do it every day, but certainly weekly. Keep up with it. Keep an eye on it. Be aware of your income and expenses. They continue to track their cash flows. Though it isn't high paying or glamorous, Eva's position at the corner store has given her years of experience in overseeing a small business. Eva can run the store with her eyes closed and has a great reputation with the owner. She's ready to move on to a better job and is considering working at Bennett's, a large department store across town. Eva discusses the potential of an assistant store manager job with Gloria, her older friend from the church, who has worked there for years. The job would be flexible and offer health insurance for her family. However, Eva needs a 2-year degree from the local community college to qualify. She's determined to start the process by taking 2 night classes every semester. Because of her situation, she qualifies for a lot of financial aid. For books, fees, and lost time at work, Eva can go to college for only $2,000 a year. Due to her bad credit history, she only qualifies for 3 loans, one from a student credit union, another from a large bank, and another from a payday lender. Eva begins investigating student loans. She figures out how much she will pay in total interest on each loan. Although the interest rate is highest from big-hearted Rick's payday lender, the offer is attractive. They will give her $500 cash up front to help with books and fees, and there are no repayments for 48 months. They always make it sound good, huh? So look at the chart on page 109. It gives you the comparisons. What do you notice about the interest rate and the repayment amounts? Look at the difference between the payday lender's interest, total interest, with the other two that are relatively comparable. That's incredible. Over almost 4 times, or about 4 times the amount of interest she'll pay to the payday lender. He's going to give her $500 in 48 months to repay it, but she's still going to pay 4 times the interest. Look at the total repayment: $2,200, $2,300, $3,400. Is that getting her $500 back?
No.
And that's why Rick knows he can give her $500, because he's still going to make buku money on that loan. That's why he's so big hearted, right? Okay. Which one would you choose if it was up to you?
AR student loan,
Sure.
the AR student, yeah.
If the repayment is similar, they're comparable, then certainly you're going to save over $100 in interest. In your repayment on a $2,000 loan, you would only pay $237.13 interest, 4.5% rate. That's a great rate. Remember, we talked about credit unions last time, I think, or time before. Credit unions are a great place. They're nonprofit, which means they're about the people that are using it. That's the difference between them and a bank. And you all share in the all the members of the credit union share in the interest of the company. I don't mean the financial interest, but in the well-being of the company. So typically that's a great way to go and use. And you don't have to be, in most cases, you don't have to be a part of that group, like a teacher's credit union. You don't have to be a teacher to use it. So compare and understand, the higher the interest rate, the higher the repayment amount. Interest compounds. We talked about that a little bit. It adds on to itself. When they recalculate the principal, in other words, what you have to pay back, they will charge interest on the interest on what you've rolled up, essentially. So every time they recalculate, and in some cases it's daily, friends, they will do this daily and recalculate your interest every day. Not everybody does that, but it can be. And so your repayment gets higher and higher. You know what? I saw something the other day on a credit card bill. This is on our my daughter's business. I'm a part owner. My daughter's business, we have a business credit card, and they have to put this on the statement now. I don't want you to see the amount, but I want to show you the statement right here. They're telling you what's going to happen. Let me read this to you. Late payment warning. If we do not receive your minimum payment by your due date, you may have to pay a $39 late fee, and your APR may be increased to the penalty APR of 29.4%. Minimum payment warning. If you make only the minimum payment each period, you will pay more in interest, and it will take you longer to pay off your balance. For example, they give you, on this amount, if we make the minimum payment, which by the way is 1% of the total due, 1% is the minimum payment. Ridiculous. If we made the minimum payment on this amount, we could pay off the balance in about 41 years. And we will end up paying $9,692 on a less than $3,000 statement. $9,000, 41 years to pay it off. Now, if we paid $100 a month, actually a little more than that, it would take 3 years and we would pay $3,700, which is still about $1,000 more than what the credit cards do. Can you imagine that minimum payment? Oh, they make it look so good. Just make the minimum payment. If we did that on this amount, we'd be paying that for 41 years. And that's without using it again, ever. 41 years and pay almost $10,000 for this. Okay. Now that's a reputable bank credit card from a bank, Capital One. Pay attention, friends. Pay attention. Pay your debts. Okay.
That's the same thing here. This is the chart here says that it's a $2,000 student loan for 5 years. So I did the math on the A&R and they would pay back $37 a month. But Big Hearted Rick, which is only in his name, they'd pay back $57 a month. So on a monthly basis, that's $20 a month, which is money that you're just throwing away every month.
Yeah.
Where you could be saving it or using it, you know, for other stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's pay attention, friends. Y'all watch what you're doing. That these people know what they're doing. They know how to market this. They know how to smile and make you think everything's going to be fine. But you all are now wiser than that. All right. So be very careful about that. Consider even Isaac's larger story now with their jobs and family situation. Is taking a loan for school a wise decision for them? We said education is an asset that usually appreciates, it usually pays for itself, but we want to be careful. What advice would you give them? Consider how Eva is dealing now with the stress of going to school while working and taking care of her family. How could that affect her family relationships? Got to think about that. Another thing, with a strict investment in the future mindset, it's natural to say that Eva should take a loan and go to school. But even the best interest rate could put the family in a bind. So she needs to consider what is most wise financially for her family and community. And another thing, why might Eva commit to stay at her local job at the store? She's becoming a leader on her block. Could God's work in her community mean she might consider remaining? Should her priority be to take a higher paying job across town? So these are questions that Eva and Isaac and the family need to consider. It's not always the best move to take the higher paying job. It might be, but you need to look at all the factors involved, and especially including your relationships with all those who will be affected by this. What about commuting time? How long does it take her to get there and back every day? It's across town. Like they said here, is she gonna lose her influence in her community? We're assuming, or they're assuming, that uh, you know, people know Eva. She's the lady at the store. She's the nice lady at the store. Um, there's some value to that. Okay. So all of us would have different advice to give her, and it's all important. But I want you to think about those things when you, especially when it comes to borrowing money. And sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's not a good idea. And you need to weigh that. And certainly prayer and asking for divine wisdom in making that decision is critical to what you do. You want to ask too, how does it fit into your spending plan? And if it doesn't, how can you save toward it? What if Eva delayed this for a couple of years and saved the $2,000? Could she do that? Could they budget that and save the money so she wouldn't have to borrow money? Okay, still have the other questions about time and effect on her family and stuff like that, but at least you eliminate the interest and the borrowing. Okay, I want you to spend some time this week thinking about debt. Talk about it with your family. If this is, especially if it's an issue in your family. Um, and if you need to, as we said, set some boundaries with your significant other or your kid and your kids or anybody that is influenced or a part of your financial family, then you need to discuss this with them. Teach them what you've learned. Share with them what you've learned this week. Keep tracking your income and expenses, as we said. All right. Let's take another quick break and then we'll move on to our next session, wrap this up for the week. We'll meet again on the 24th, 2 weeks from today, and that'll be the end of our faith and finance. We're going to talk about banking next. All right. Quick break, couple of minutes. All right, friends, let's regather here. Everybody give me a shout out when you get back on. I see you, Brandy.
I'm here.
Leah. You there, Katie?
I'm here. Hey, Bobby, when you're in
Katie?
Florida,
Marie? Yeah, Marie.
you need to try, gosh, what is it? Bubba Gumps. Right there at Universal. Because Disney's where we normally go on vacation and we wanted something different.
Yeah.
But Bubba
Yeah.
Gumps right there, I think it's in the middle of Universal. Oh my gosh, they're so good.
I've never been to Universal. We are Disney files. So Universal's a bad word. we go stay on property, and actually one time we rented a car and went over to the SeaWorld, not SeaWorld, but their water park where you swim with the dolphins. That was so cool. But otherwise we just stay and ride the monorail and the bus or whatever, and we haven't been on the Skyliner. We hadn't been in about 10 years, so we're looking forward to going back. We're going to splurge this time and stay at the boardwalk. We usually stay at Caribbean Beach, cheaper, but we're going to splurge. And since we're old and retired, we're going to do that, do the boardwalk.
Yeah, we had a resort, like we did the Westgate Resort.
Mm-hmm.
With everything, it just wasn't, it's like a give back clause where you pay for the resort so long and then it wasn't benefiting like our plan, so we gave
Right.
it back.
Right. Well,
But Disney, they've like Toy Story and all the rides up there is just awesome.
Yeah.
Hogwarts.
Yeah. There's a lot of new stuff since we've been there. Of course, they're getting so expensive. It's just maddening. I don't know. I really have mixed emotions about it. I was excited about going, but with all the new stuff they're doing and charging more, and you ended up getting less value for it, it's kind of frustrating. But anyway, we're going to go and see if we like it.
Yeah, my son went to Six Flags a few months ago on spring break, and they got maybe 2-3 rides out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because of the way everything's changed with COVID and everything, that he barely even got to ride any rides.
Well, they're lifting a lot of that at Disney World. They've removed the mask thing if you're vaccinated, and they're kind of getting back to the old way, but they're just raising prices out of sight nearly. It's crazy. But little thing about Six Flags, we went when my daughter was 3 or 4 years old. First time we went, I really wasn't all excited about going until I went, but it spoiled us so bad. We came back and went to Six Flags one day, and it was terrible. It was dirty. Disney just spoiled us. They ruined us. And not only can we not go to Six Flags, I can't watch fireworks. I can't go to the community fireworks shows. All I do is sit there and criticize them. Okay, so I never go see 4th of July fireworks. When you've seen Disney fireworks, it's like an out of this world experience. Okay, you can't just watch a bunch of guys shooting off rockets anymore. No, you got to have music and lasers and synchronization and Tinkerbell and I don't know what else. It just, but I can't. So I'm a spoiled brat. But
I think 2 years, the last year we went to Disney was right before COVID, back in 2018. And I think for my husband, me and my 2 kids, we did a 4-day pass because you can't, you have to have a week to get through every
Oh, yeah.
park up there.
yeah. Well,
I think it cost us $2,800 just
Last-
for passes.
last time we went, I think, or one of the times we went anyway, we stayed 10 days and that was too much. That was exhausting, but we got to every park a couple of times and, you know, it was fun, but anyway, I encourage people to go. It's a different world altogether. And like I say, first time I went, I'm like, okay, this is my obligatory take my kid to Disney World trip that I'll do once in a life, and that'll get it out of the way, you know. But it was so fun. It was so, even for grown-ups, just the resort. Just I'd never been on a vacation where they took care of everything, you know. I was a camper guy, or stay in a motel and pack your own luggage and move every day. And to have somebody just say, yeah, just here, we'll take you, we'll take care of it. I'm like, what? So it blew me away. Anyway, we got to get our stuff done here. Sorry, folks. Let's talk about credit versus debit. Anybody have a debit card? Debit card? Okay. I don't have one, although I could get one, but I'm still an old-fashioned
Make sure you put the trash in the trash bag that's in the
write the
room.
check guy and hand them the check and they put it in the thing and hand it back to you like, what's this, you know? But I do, there's a difference between a credit card and a debit card, right? Everybody understand that? Debit card is you're spending money, you're spending your money. Credit card, you're spending somebody else's money and paying them back. Okay. And it typically involves fees and interest and stuff like that. And I've shared with you already that I use credit cards that offer a premium. And so we get cash back and airline miles and stuff like that. And we end up netting, because I pay them off every month, pay them totally off every month. That's part of my spending plan. Then we get a couple of them, we pay a annual fee, but the premium we get back more than pays for that. I've checked that. I double check it. I make sure that's the case. So you can use credit cards and do it wisely, but you need to be very careful, and you must pay them off every month. You never pay interest on them. I've had people say, well, how can they do that? How will they give you a card if they're not going to make any money off of you? Well, it's because they charge the vendor who takes the card, they charge them a fee. So if you have a business and you take, and which I did, and you take credit cards, then you pay them anywhere from 1.5% to 3.5% of that transaction. The vendor pays the credit company. In other words, if I took a Discover card, every time I used it, they took a fee out of that, out of my account, out of my money. So they're still making money on the vendors, even if they're not making any on me. So that's how that works. But difference between debit and credit card. Okay. Let me just ask you this. We're going to talk about banking. Do all of you have a bank account? Do all of you use a bank? Tell me if you don't, because if all of you do, some of this I won't have to explain to you. Anybody not
We have
use a bank?
two.
Okay.
We have one that we transfer money in for bills, and then we have one that's just, so we have 2 debit cards. One is mainly used just for bills, and then
Okay.
the other one we use, that way we know, it kind of helps budget every month.
Right. You're keeping track of it in 2
That
different accounts. Yeah. Track
I'm
of
sure
what
you
you do.
know you pay a truck payment. It doesn't always pull it sometimes takes them 3 or 4 days to pull it out.
Right.
So it keeps from spending that
Okay.
money too.
But you get are they paying you interest on that? Kind of like a savings account?
No, we actually like, I don't know if, I'm sure you've got BBVA down there, but that's who my truck is through, like who I make
Yeah.
my payments through.
Okay.
So we opened a bank account through them as well. And we just transfer the money over, kind of like it's out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
So
Right.
it's linked to our main credit union.
Okay. There you go. Okay. So, but anyway, we're all familiar with banks, and their basic function is to keep our money for us, in essence, and then give it to us when we need it. And by their advantages to that, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this. So you understand the difference between credit and debit. All right, everybody know that. Credit is like a loan. Debit is tied to your account. So you're spending money you already have. Page 116 is where I'm looking, by the way. Credit card, if you don't pay on time, you get late fees and interest, which I shared with you a minute ago. And on a debit card, if you overdraw, you might be charged a fee. Credit card, you get mail, online, store, over the phone. Debit card is usually offered with your checking account at your personal bank. It's usually free for a debit card unless you overdraw and get charged a fee. You pay your credit card every month. They send you a statement. The bank on a debit card, the bank will send you a statement, shows you how much you've spent and what you have left in the account. One of the things that's nice about a debit card is it, at least for that part, not cash, but it keeps up with your income and expenses for you. So part of that is already there. They send you that statement or you have access to it anyway. Okay, credit card, you can take cash advances, which I never do because they're expensive. Even if you pay that back immediately, they charge you a fee for that. So if I need cash, I go to the bank and use my debit card at the ATM, or I write a check to cash and go to the bank and get it that way. So there's no cost to me. Okay, everybody understand that? Debit, credit, the difference between that. Won't spend any more time on that. Okay. How about your experience with banks? Have any of you, how have you used a bank? What have you done? Checking account, debit card, what else?
Savings account.
Savings accounts. What else with your bank? Anybody ever borrowed money from a bank? Our mortgage is through our bank. So I have borrowed money. I've made business loans through a bank. By the way, just a quick thing, I may have shared this with you. Both times when I first started my dental practice, and then when I partnered with another guy and we built a different practice, we got our loan through a bank. Now they're through a local bank, Citizens National Bank, in fact, in Waxahachie. And we discovered that they actually charged less interest. We were borrowing from friends. It was much harder to get in default than it was through a national lending bank. There were several advantages to doing that through a local bank that we discovered that I didn't realize were the case. So it's nice to have a good relationship with your local bank. There's some advantages to that. In other words, default, I'm talking about if we got in trouble and we're not able to pay it back, there were with the Bank of America, dental business loan, they had 2 pages front and back of possible ways to default where they would take our assets. Okay. With the Citizens Bank, they had a few things, but as they told us, you know, if you get in trouble, come see us. We'll figure it out. You're dealing with your neighbors here. So there was great advantage to that. We always were able to meet our obligations, but it was nice to have that anyway. So, okay, so look on page, don't know where this is. Maybe it's not there. Here's some things about banks. Let's see if these are true or false. You just let me know. You have to be rich to use a bank, true or false?
No,
False. Banks charge you fees every time you use your debit card. True or false?
No.
Nope. Okay. Banks are unfriendly.
some are.
In general, they're friendly people, but depends on who the teller is and what kind of day they're having, maybe sometimes. But I would say that's typically false. My experience has been they're very friendly. Again, they want your business. They want your business. Okay. Going to the bank takes up a lot of time. True or false? There can be a long line at the drive-through.
No.
Sometimes. A lot of time, I wouldn't say it's necessarily any more than you might spend online trying to get some transaction straightened out with a credit company somewhere. Okay. Banks exist to make a profit. True. They intend to make money. Credit unions are different in this sense. They are nonprofit companies, which is why their fees are generally and interest rates are a little lower. They're not trying to make money for shareholders. Now, they may still pay large salaries to their officers, so they want to make that, but there is a little difference between the two. But they do exist to make a profit. Banks charge $40 every time you overdraw your account. Yeah, you're right, Mary. Well, they can. However, this is kind of like credit score. I've experienced this. I know others who have. It was their error. Okay. And I was able to point that out to them and they would remove that charge for being overdrawn. Plus you can typically.
I have it set up where you can't overdraw.
Okay.
If I ain't got no money, I won't use it.
Okay. You've got it set up so that you can't do that. Right. And they also, like for instance, on my account, I have an overdraft protection plan, which is free, $500 overdraft on my checking account. So they won't charge me a fee up to that much and they'll honor that. I'm sorry, they will charge me a fee, but they will honor the check up to that amount. If a bank is robbed, you lose all your money. True or false?
False.
False, because they have insurance against that. FDIC is a federal program which insures your account up to a certain amount. I think it's $100,000 now. So if you have more than that in a bank, you'd want to have more insurance, or you may want to use 2 or 3 different banks. If you had more than 100,000, that may be wise to do, so that if the bank defaults, your money's insured. Certainly not robbed. That's not the same thing, but there is insurance against that. Banks will take your house away. True or false? There's a gnat flying around me here. That's why you see me keep waving. I'm sorry. I can't catch him. Banks will take your house away. True or false? Well, they can if you don't pay for it, if you don't make your payments. However, again, like with most lenders, they really want you in that house and they want you to pay them. So if you get into trouble, then you need to go to the bank and say, I'm having some problems. Can we work on this? All right. Sometimes they'll let you pay interest only for a while. They'll hold the principal. You just make the interest payment each month. So that can be true, but there are ways to work around that. Okay. All right. So let's listen to Eve and Isaac, page 116, more of their story using the bank and those benefits. Isaac and Eva set aside a special time each week to discuss their finances. They laughed as they compared financial histories. Not only were they born the exact same month, but they remembered both being given $100 for a birthday their senior year of high school. However, they had very different experiences saving it. Eva wanted to protect her money, but didn't like or understand banks. They charged her over $30 once for using a debit card. She was afraid to lose her money, so she hid it at home. Isaac wanted to save his $100 too, but he wanted it to grow. He decided to put his money in the East Side Credit Union. He talked to Pop, his grandfather, who showed him how to open a long-term savings account with Rich, the account manager. The credit union required that the deposit stay in for 1 year, and it paid interest at the rate of 5% a year, or $5 in 1 year on $100. After 3 months, Isaac stopped by to see Rich and ask how his deposit was doing. His $100 had grown to $101.23. Eva, too, checked her hiding place to make sure her money was still there. She found only $92. Someone had taken $8. When she asked her family, her brother Charles admitted to borrowing the money for groceries. Eva was outraged. She chased him out of the house, then divided the rest of her savings up and hid small amounts in different hiding places around the house so that her family wouldn't find it. The next 3 months were summer. Isaac joined Pop in his lawn care business. At their credit union, Rich informed them that since both Isaac and Pop had savings account with positive balances, they qualified for a $200 loan. They used this loan to purchase another good quality mower and started mowing a lot of yards. During the same period, Eva used some of her money to purchase some chocolate from Candy, a neighborhood kid who came to her door. Although Eva had intended to save her money, she couldn't resist the poor child. Plus, it was for a good cause, and it was only $5. At the end of this period, Isaac had $102.47 in his saving account, but he owed $160 in lawnmower repayments. Eva still had $87 hidden in different places in her house. During the next quarter, East Side Credit Union was held up by Rob, the bank robber. One day he entered with a gun and left with all the cash. When Isaac heard the news, he mourned. He thought he had lost all his savings, but he learned that banks and credit unions have insurance, and therefore they would be able to recover all the money that was stolen. Rich showed him how his balance at the end of the quarter had grown to $103.73. His lawn business with Pop was making such steady income that they paid off the $200 in full. Isaac was pleased. Meanwhile, Eva had $87 in her mattress account, quote unquote. A few months after Isaac's credit union was robbed, Rob the banker broke into Eva's house while she was at work. The thief found $25 that she'd hidden in a pot. Fortunately, he didn't find all her money. She was left with $62. Isaac, on the other hand, still had his savings in the credit union, and he now owned a nice mower. At the end of the year, Isaac's $100 had grown to $105, while Eva's $100 had become $62. And you see that charted on page 118. All right, what key steps did Isaac take to grow his money? He put it in a safe place. Not only was it safe, it paid him to put it there. They paid him to keep his money. Okay. He qualified for a loan at a low interest rate, used that asset to make more money, pay it off, and continue to make money even after it was paid off. It's got a nice lawnmower, it said. All right. So several things that Isaac did well. How about Eva? What did she do? What mistakes did she make?
Well, she kept money in a place where other people can reach it.
Okay. It wasn't in a safe place. She let one experience cause her to mistrust banks. And even though it doesn't say it was her fault or their fault, let's assume that it was her fault, because if it was a mistake on their behalf, she would very likely have been able to get that corrected. So she allowed that experience to cause her to do something that was unwise. So it wasn't safe. She lost a lot of it. It was too easy to get to, right? When the candy girl came by. Yeah, it tastes good. It's a good cause. What a sweet little girl. Here's your $5. Okay. It was too easy to access. All right. So, what are the advantages of banks or credit unions? Security, because of insurance, reliability, privacy, safety, interest income. There are products available for being a customer. Being a customer of a bank can also get you a credit card, which we use in emergencies, right? Because you're a customer there. So there are premiums to that, or advantages to that. How about opportunity to build a credit history? You show that you're responsible. Okay. We didn't think about this. How about getting financial advice from the staff? Actually, they did that with Rich at the credit union. Okay. He said, we've got this premium for you, low interest note that will let you add to your business. Okay. And that was good advice. And then keeps you from being tempted to spend impulsively. All right, good. So advantages to banks and credit unions. They help us grow our money, protect it from getting stolen or spent frivolously. But as we've been discussing, our goals to participate as participants in God's kingdom are larger than just our own financial security. Remember our two key themes. God is making all things new, and he's using our money as a part of that. So our money's a part of the larger thing, God's kingdom and his work in the world. So how do we balance the tension between growing and protecting our money and living for the larger goal of God's kingdom's work in the world? It's not an easy question to answer, folks, especially with the temptation that money is to us. And as we've mentioned several times, the ads that we get that tell us that we deserve this, we need this, we're just bombarded with this kind of rhetoric. We think our happiness is tied to our money, when in reality, that's not the case at all. So the key is not letting money control you, or not making money an idol is a word I like to use. Not giving it, assigning it more importance than it needs. Money is a tool, as we've talked about from the very beginning. Money is a tool that we need in the world to cooperate with each other. But we, as the Bible says, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Not money, but the love of money. There's a difference. Everybody, it makes sense to everybody. I know it's a bigger challenge to live that than it is to say it. I understand that. But you need to see that if money is your priority, gaining money, then it has become an idol. It has replaced your trust in God. You're trusting in money instead of in God. Okay? Since you all have uh, and a relationship with a bank, we're going to skip this next section. I'm assuming you know how to write a check, fill out a deposit slip, things like that. If you use a bank, then you've either done that, or they will be happy to show you how to do whatever is necessary for you to use their services. So we won't spend any time on that part of the thing. If you want to open an account, you will need a minimum deposit, identification, things like that. Again, I'm assuming you've done that. You understand there's a little bit of work involved with it, but they are trustable because, not because they're nice people, although that's part of it, but they are a business. They want your business. You are their business, and so they want to be mutually beneficial to you. All right. Any other thoughts on banking? Let me read these things. There are some things you need to do to protect your bank account. Um, and these are going to be repeats, but they bear repeating, I think. Don't give out your card or bank account number to unfamiliar merchants or people, especially on the phone or the internet. Never, never, never. Okay. If you have a business and you take checks or credit cards, then you probably have some familiarity with that, but paper checks may not be good. You need to trust who you accept checks from. If you deposit a bad check, um, it may show up temporarily, but it will be taken out once it's verified as being a bad check. Um, if you do that, that is called fraud by check. It's a crime. You need to report that crime. I don't know that this is still true, but in Ellis County, you go to the courthouse, you fill out a form, or they'll send it to you. You fill out a form reporting it with a copy of the check. By the way, you always need a driver's license on that check. That's how they verify the law, that the law enforcement agencies verify. And in Ellis County, when I was in business, they would attempt to collect that and would, not often, but probably half the time, they would end up collecting the money from the person who gave me the check and send it to me. So I got my money back from law enforcement, but you need to report that if you get a bad check. Okay. Um, Be on guard for checks in the mail that you say you won a lottery, work or home schemes offering big pay. If you doubt it, talk to the financial institution about the circumstances surrounding the check. Remember, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. Okay. Never write your PIN on your card. Don't write your personal identification number on your card. Store your card, your debit card, your credit card, and your checks in a safe place. Review your statements from the bank each month to make sure your records match. Keep track of your purchases. Keep your receipts. Keep your receipts, friends. Take the time to do that. Put them in a little folder. I've got mine divided up by the credit cards and the cash and whatever. It's worth it because here comes $100 thing one day that's not yours. You need to have proof in order to recover your money, or you're just going to have to kiss it goodbye. And most of us can't afford to do that. Okay. So keep up with your receipts. Check your statements. Be careful about that. Take the time to do that. I encourage you to do that. It'll save you not only money, but hassle. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, we are finished for today. Keep tracking your income and expenses. Keep adjusting your spending plan as it needs adjusting. If you did not get your credit report, please do that. Look at your credit report, check for mistakes. Do the things that we talked about that you committed to do to help your credit, repair your credit, grow your credit, increase your score. Those things matter in saving you money in the fees that you're going to pay, interest, etc. Things we talked about. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? We will meet again in 2 weeks, be our final session together. And on July 24th, same time, 9 o'clock, I'll text you all again the day before and send you the appropriate codes. They won't change unless there's a disaster or something. But we'll meet one final time. For those of you who complete the course, I will get you a certificate of completion when we're finished. And I know some of you have missed some times. If you will go back and watch what you've missed and tell me that you do, I'll believe you. I'll trust you. And you will qualify for this certificate. So be with us again in 2 weeks. Brandy, thank you for jumping on even in the hospital. Appreciate your commitment there. I know it's been a tough week for you. We're going to pray that you get better quickly, get your health back. I'm going to ask you guys to pray for me. I've got a hurt back. I've been sitting on an ice pack here for this time, most of this time. I went to the chiropractor yesterday. Turns out it's actually a muscle. It's my butt muscle, my gluteus muscle, where it attaches right at the top of my hip bone, and it's making my lower back hurt. So at least I found a spot where I can massage it and it helps it feel better. So, but I'm praying that'll go away because it's kind of making me wince and gimp around a little bit. So I appreciate your prayers and concern for that. Anyone else have anything to share before we go? It's good to see you all. God bless us. Bless our day
Bless you.
today. Help us to apply what we're learning here to help us to flourish and to put money, our finances, right where it belongs in your kingdom and in your work. In Jesus' name, let this be so. Amen. See y'all in 2
Amen.
weeks.
See you in 2 weeks, ladies.
Bye-bye.